To give the full session to hand over SAR only, but unfortunately, some sudden program cancellation or happened, and today, with the help of God blessings, I have invited our chief guest, Gnana Sambanthan sir, for giving a wonderful session today, talk today. So anyhow, this I am feeling this is our blessing to have a session, sessions today. So now I am very happy to introduce about Gnana Sambanthan sir. Since 1995 till September 2018, Dr. Gnana Sambanthan was a professor and head of the CSE department of NITTTR Chennai, and he has done his BE, ME, and PhD in civil engineering in full time at a stretch without a gap. He holds an ME with a distinction from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and PhD from IIT Madras as a CSIR Senior Research Fellow. He has obtained a blend of industrial research and training experiences of several years from India and abroad. He also had a 2-year stint with the State Council for Science and Technology, coordinating Industry Institute Interaction Cell. As a software professional, he had developed over 150,000 lines of coding on Unix platform in India and abroad. In 1998, he was sponsored under World Bank to the Huddersfield University, UK, on curriculum development in computer science discipline. In 2000, he was nominated to Manila, Philippines on computer application in technical education and training under Colombo Plan. In 2017, he was nominated to Dhaka, Bangladesh on TVET CPSC programming on OBE. He has worked in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for 7 years as a software engineer, apart from visiting few other countries. He has published 32 peer-reviewed journal papers and presented 84 papers in national and international conferences and seminars in India and abroad. Also, he authorized 2 editions of a book on computer graphics. He has visited over 1,000 technical institutions on various committees such as AICTE, etc. in over 18 states of India. He has been rendering popular lectures to students on Unix, Linux, OS based on his industrial experience, and teachers on instructional system designed for OBE through CDIO. Based on his training and research experience in over 100 higher educational and management institutions in India. He was the chairman in implementing IT curriculum in Portaplar and Andamans. He has won several awards and distinctions from various organizations, including the Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Award from the University of Madras. He has already produced 13 PhDs under Madras University and currently gaining 6 PhDs, mostly in OBE areas of engineering education, apart from associating himself in doctoral committees in the past 10 years. His areas of interest are concept of extractions, learning grids and computer science education, instructional design, OBE, CIO, and e-learning. Sir, we are very happy to invite you for this wonderful session, and I am feeling I am very blessed because of you. And another one thing, sir, we are always a learner, so we should listen your words, because you are a father of OBE, I know, sir. Yes, sir, because when I was discussed with that OBE concepts and all with the NITTTR people, they immediately mentioned your name only, because that time itself I have a plan to conduct this event with you only, but unfortunately it has never happened. But in future we will conduct many programs with your guidance, sir, because I am having a plan and writing the proposal proposal also. So when
Yes,
we are
thank
writing proposals, surely I will invite you for many programs, and we will conduct many programs. This is the
yes,
time. I am very
yeah,
happy to invite you and welcome you for this
thank you.
event. So please hand over the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning to all the viewers. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge my thanks to the organizers, particularly to Dr. Gladys Pushpalati, who has taken a very personal initiative in arranging this program. In fact, my thanks are due to her for giving me an opportunity to share my experience with you. And this is not the first time we have been interacting, myself and Dr. Gladys. Like me, she is also very much interested in outcome-based education. And she was telling that I achieved this, that, etc. Normally, I don't like speaking about myself. In fact, others. Am I audible?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, because suddenly something appeared. Okay, okay. So once again, my thanks are due to Dr. Gladys and all the viewers also. Okay, so, this is the in between. I have started with the topic which was given to me, like the pinnacle definitions of the OBE. I'm going to restrict myself with a little overview about the pinnacle definitions, how it should be defined in your institutions and all. Most likely, you may have to consult some instructional system design with which you will be delivering to your students. And you also should understand the basic difference between the traditional, linear, syllabus-oriented, examination-driven input-output system, which you are following right now. Now you may have to switch over a paradigm shift to a new system called outcome-based education. And when I say a new system, actually speaking, it is not new to India. In fact, in our ancient Indian education system, exploratory learning methods were adapted. Even with the published work, I will be telling you, but not in this presentation because we may not get time, about our ancient Indian system. It was very much practiced around 200 years back after the Britishers introduced their linear system. That developmental system vanished from India, not completely vanished. It is again coming back. So it is not all that paradigm shift for us, but in engineering technology, we are switching over back to the old system, what we call outcome-based education. And I've also, in my experience, I have seen visiting so many institutions and how the teachers have designed the teaching learning process. They all follow the traditional linear syllabus-oriented system only, even though they define the pinnacle definition like vision, mission, PEO, and they take up some POs and write down there and forget about the entire process of outcome-based education. And this is not with one or two institutions, maybe hundreds upon hundreds of educational institutions, particularly ENT. They have been doing like that, which is a mistake. Since outcome-based education, I'm sorry, I'm getting, is my voice not clear? Hello? Yes? I'm sorry, I thought my voice is not clear. Okay. Uh, if my voice is not audible or something goes off because we are technology dependent right now, somebody must revert back to me. Okay. So that
You are audible, sir. You are audible,
okay,
sir.
okay. Because you know, it is not a teaching learning process taking place in the classroom. It is
Yeah,
something
it's
like a
okay. Yes,
black
sir.
box.
Actually,
That is why.
yes, sir. It's maybe due to the intensity of the signal.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes. Something. Yes, I understand. Okay. We will make it even an interactive session, which will be very good. Okay. Outcome-based education never specifies any instructional model. You can take any model you can develop for your institutions, But that defining the pinnacle definitions at the very beginning of your institute, the system changes. And that is what we are going to see in this session. And that is why I have taken a proven instructional framework called CDI. CDI practiced in industry. In industry, they know when an engineer joins an organization. I worked in major industries in India and abroad. Around 14 years, I was in industry, developing software, but in-house software for engineering application, mostly in mechanical engineering applications. The first one is conceive, design, implement, and operate. This is the practice which is being carried out in industry. A problem will be given to an engineer, and he may have to conceive. Conceive doesn't mean it is knowing about the problem. It is conceptualizing the problem. Because what they expect from an engineer is to design and take the full responsibility in designing, then implementing, then operating, and things like that. Whatever be the discipline, you may have to do that. And nobody is going to ask what is Hooke's law, what is Ohm's law, what is the laws of thermodynamics, and what nobody is going to ask. In fact, the problem will be transdisciplinary in nature. They'll be thinking about the economy. They'll be thinking about social acceptance and environmental safety and things like that, how it is going to run. And it is the industrial reality, which is called the industrial rigor. And that is what they are interested in. And fortunately, the CDIO came from an educational institution called the MIT United States, about which you are going to see right now. So even though there could be some repetitions in my talk, you know, this is a developmental education system. So there could be some repetitions from me, from some other teachers also, and even other speakers who are going to come later also will be defining about some pinnacle definitions. Take it easy. It is developmental repetition will be there. Coherency is the greatest problem in OBE, but you will have to understand. Understanding the OBE is the major thing, major difficult thing which you are going to face. Okay. With this brief note, I will give you an overview about OBE, CDIO with respect to pinnacle definition for instructional system design. Let me go. Is it moving, my slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the first one I want to touch upon is some salient points of the NEP 2020. It is not like advertising, etc. But it is definitely going to come, because throughout the world, the new education policies, what we have framed in India as NEP 2020, and some other names they have defined, that's all. China has already done in Vision 2030, China Vision 2030, declared in a place called Qingdao in 2016, already it has come. And we are lacking even 5 years behind China. China is expected to lead the higher education, particularly in engineering and technology by 2030. What we are planning is around 2035 in India. India is expected to take the education system in ENT, particularly ENT and other employability related education, what we call in 2035. And it will be the top 10, top 5 in the world. Let us hope that we reach that stage now. And accordingly, the funds required for implementing this will be increased of the GDP around 6% by the time we reach 2035. So a huge amount of funds will be allocated for the NEP 2020. And some of the salient points, which is related to defining your pinnacle definitions, how you're going to define, you must understand. That is why you will take up this one first. First of all, it is a learner-centric approach, as you know. 1 minute, sorry. Yeah. Again and again, if you see our NEP 2020, it talks about competencies. I have the full format, and it is available in the open source in open domain. I have given the particular clause in brackets, so that 9.2b, something like that, it talks about competencies, and at various places it talks about competencies. and in the form of learning outcome, learning outcome, learning outcome. That is very essential. So in your pinnacle definition, when you define your vision, mission, etc., that is also outcome, because outcome, the best word for outcome is outcome. And I don't think whether any other word is available, because they're the best word. But they are not the real outcome. In the sense, learning outcome is the real outcome, which is already attained by the students and which is measurable. Measuring what? Competencies. It is not only the core competencies, but attitude and skills. That is what learning outcome means. This has been clearly mentioned in the NEP 2020. Okay, we'll go a bit fast, and if somebody wants some other detail, you can stop me at any time and ask me. Holism means it is a bigger picture. For example, if you're teaching ENC or Triple E or CSA, where exactly and what scenario for the society you're going to apply a particular concept in your own discipline. So it is not only the disciplinary concept logics, but it is also the contemporary industrial logics, along with the even humanities will come, like sociology, etc., etc. So that is called holism, a bigger picture. And invariably, you cannot restrict yourself only with a particular discipline. If you are belonging to Triple E, you cannot talk only about Triple E, and you can say that I know only Triple E because I belong to Triple E and all. It is not like that. You may have to talk about economics. You may have to talk about social acceptance and futuristic studies. What is going to happen after 3 years, after 5 years, after 10 years, and so on. And this has been specified at various places. And we will also see something about the heuristic thinking that is out of the box, which involves creativity, innovation, etc., particularly in engineering technology. And the NEP 2020 talks very clearly about research in teaching methods and research otherwise in your disciplinary content also. So both put together, research. That is what a teacher is expected to carry on. So research start right from the beginning in your teaching. And one of the best practices, which is called best practices by Robert Marzano, is one of the pioneers in defining that. Unfortunately, we are not going to talk about the details of the best practices here. I'll just give an overview only. And this has been specified as a class. This is a developmental education system. And autonomous learning is in the higher education. We cannot try out in the lower education. And NEP 2020 has defined clearly what is the outcome expected from this high school, at the preliminary school, up to the level of 10th standard. There are certain learning outcomes are expected, like joy of learning and mental ability, recalling mental ability, and so on. But something like ampliative ability, creative thinking, innovative ability will not happen until they reach 9th standard or 10th standard. Let us say around 15 years. That is what our ancient system in India, they have segregated 2 types of learning very clearly. And one for up to the age of 15, they were concentrating on concentrated contemplation, that is learning outcome, along with the mental recalling ability. But the other higher order thinking, they have gone to the higher level of education. This was being practiced maybe back 250 years back. For thousands of years, India was practicing. And so autonomous learning, self-regulated, peer-to-peer, group learning, etc., they have mentioned for higher education. Another area for institutional characteristics is autonomy will be given to all institutions, all higher education institutions, particularly engineering technology, and it will be called as a multidisciplinary institution. Every district, there is going to be one university or a college which is multidisciplinary. This is the aim of NEP 2020, and that has been specified explicitly in various clauses. And something like deemed to be university, affiliated colleges, etc., all will vanish. That is the aim. At least they are hoping to do so. And when it is going to be implemented, I do not know, but shortly this will be done. So every institution is going to enjoy that autonomy, and they have very clearly specified that the teacher and the students will be given full autonomy. That means they have mentioned that even government cannot interfere with teachers and students. I repeat, even government cannot interfere with teachers and students in defining their disciplinary knowledge and syllabi and the teaching methods. It is up to the teacher and the students. That shows that in future, particularly in employability-oriented education like ENT, teachers will take over. This is the aim of the government's declaration of NDP 2020. So, but another important thing which has been put together is bringing out the humanities and sciences, which is very essential because I have traveled abroad and I have also worked there. It is not only the pure technical aspects they require. The society requires aesthetics, for example, cleanliness and environmental awareness and things like that. So all these things will be imbibed, not treated in isolation. So they will be imbibed in your education system in a particular lead discipline, let us say mechanical engineering, this will be done. So inclusion of the Indian culture and civilization, etc. And the competency-based credit system, they have gone to very serious level. That means a bank with the credits of individual students will be created and kept by government. So government of India is going to keep this bank, and every student's attaining their credits, whether it is gradable credit or non-gradable credit, will be put under the competency, the credit system, credit bank. How the modality will be, I think they are working out, and it will come soon. So students need not, he can have a high horizontal movement between institute to institute and so on. So this is called competency-based credit system, which is different from choice-based credit system. This is also totally choice-based, but choice according to not only the disciplinary content, but the credit based upon competencies, which is imbibed with, the core is imbibed with skill and attitude. And the examination-driven system will go. It is there no more examination fever. So it is a continuous formative assessment, which involves third component and so on. Again, somebody else will be talking about that. Okay, these are all some of the salient features which is relevant to higher education, particularly the engineering technology, has been explicitly specified by the NAP 2020. Now we will go to the academic and social aspects for your pinnacle definition, how you are going to do. Now, why we have seen this NEP 2020, whenever you are going to define, because the now the teachers are going to enjoy the freedom, and the teachers will be involving in defining the pinnacle definition, the topmost definition about which you are going to see right now. So you must know what is the latest scenario in India, like NEP 2020, which is very essential to note down, because they are all talking about it, all talking about learning outcome only. You must understand the basic difference between the general outcome statement and the learning outcome, which is totally different from your PO or CO or PEO or vision mission. They are learning outcome is the actual outcomes which is measurable, already attained by students. We'll see about it. So another important thing you must see is it is going to become a learner-centric approach. Learner-centric approach doesn't mean learners learn by themselves, and which is very different from teacher-led approach where teachers teach. It is not that simple difference. There is a world of a difference between these two. And it will take maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks to understand what is learner-centric approaches. In higher education, we should not try out in the lower education. Lower education, up to 10th standard, they want memorizing. They love memorizing. And they will be happy to repeat because the mental ability will be growing high. And it will reach the peak at the end of the adolescent period. And when they enter your institutions, in higher education institutions, they may not like to improve further with rote information recalling ability, which will stop almost like that, which it has stopped for us. Then only it will start with ampliative ability, creative thinking, and so on and so forth. And that is why you must understand the generation gap, how they have come up to this level, and what is your level, particularly the young teachers right now. So we will see about that in one slide. Then we will go to how to define that definition. I'm not going to read every point. We'll go quickly. The present day teachers who are very young teachers, most of them are not like me, all ODs and all, they are gone almost or going out. The young teachers who are born between 81 and 97, they are called millennials, or they are the previous generation, Y Gen, the Gen Ys and so on. Previous to that is the Gen X and then the baby boomers. They're very old and all. And there could be some senior teachers available here, but whoever it may be, particularly these millennials should understand your students. Your students are born between this age and they are called Gen Zs. Some salient point we will say, because while defining your pinnacle definition, where you are going to define the aspiring learner characteristics, to which you are going to take the current learner characteristics, both involves your students' characteristics. That is why you must understand the difference between you, the young teachers, and your students. There are some marked difference between them. And we will see about it. First of all, you are idealistic, unless the previous generation to you, those are born like me and all older generations. You are more to brands because of the communication which has become shrunk throughout the world, and you are able to know what is going on elsewhere, which is not happening in our time. But your students, the Gen Zs, they are very high, they are more towards independence. And they are very pragmatic, they are very practical and all. They also like more on experience like you. But the striking difference between you and your students are the independence which they are thinking about it, which will be spelled out, which must be spelled out in your pinnacle definitions. And another one is you want to improve the society, no doubt. They are also for, and they want to have ethical way of life like you. But the difference is they are highly towards competencies. The competencies is not only gaining core competencies, but core competencies imbibed with skill and attitude. Skill and attitude cannot be treated in isolation. This is why you must understand it. This is what NEP 2020 also has mentioned, that it is the competency must be inbuilt in your SLO. So you should be very careful in treating these competencies, how to imbibe through SLO, students learning outcome. It is not spelled out written in POCO. It is not possible at all. POCO are statements describing the learning outcomes already attained by the student. Okay. They are more concerned about the environment. And that is what in a employability-oriented education, such as ENT, must look into that. And another one is, the very important is self-expressing through needs. So in 2024 and 25, that is what China also has already understood, that previously in your generation it was technology based. Before that it was technology enabled in our time. Now it is going to be technology dependent. We cannot do anything. This is what China has defined in the Qingdao 2016 declaration. And these students, your students, Gen Zs, know that they are more towards that, because natively multitaskers, we are all struggling with multitasking. They are native to that. That is why the education, most of the part of the education will be put in the mobile phones, and they will be able to do. They are freely allowing mobile phones in China, even in China. So the other points, like another striking point is they love to live with their parents and live with, particularly in India, this is a research publications. And of course, the other things like you may be less religious, they're also not for religion, but spiritually they are high. This is what I find. These things do not directly matter to our CDIO framework or an OBE philosophy. Whatever I have marked in red color is important to you must know. That is why I have marked in red color. Another one striking difference between you and your students is the entrepreneurial. And the tomorrow, with this self-expression through e-tool, most of the concerns will be personal sectors with entrepreneurship by spirit and entrepreneurship by practice. If they're going to start by a company, like you will be entrepreneur by spirit, in the sense that is what NEP 2020 also means. The gaps between government teachers and private teachers will narrow down. In the sense there may not be, they're going to give full freedom to teachers, and teachers may take over the education system. That is the idea. Then you may be attached with a particular institution, but you will act like a trainer for trainers, and you will be creating something with the EPLE. It is what most of the portions of your teaching content, instructional contents, will go to VLE. VLE is virtual learning environment, which involves software tools or programs like open source program like LMS, learning management systems like Moodle or Joomla and things like that. You will be putting your content there, and that may be linked with the public domain, including the YouTube and all. So this is taking you to a business sector. So OBE, even though you may not like it, an education which must be in the service sector will be going towards business sector. This will create money for teachers, and it is expected to do so, whether you like it or not. Even then, you can remain there as a service-oriented person in the education system as a teacher. You may have to switch over from TLE, which was wrongly done in higher education, to OBE. So most portions will go to VLE. That means in 2024, most of the contents will be available in the internet. So they will be taking rote information quickly rather than the teacher. They will be able to take the information. So when you are providing a rote information in the classroom, it is a waste of time, not only for you, for them particularly, because you will be giving mostly an outdated information, which they don't want. They are going to laugh at you because it is available in the mobile phones, through internet they can get. And even when they go to industries, because I was in 14 years in industry, major industry, no one asked me, what is Hooke's law, what is Ohm's law, what is this, what is that? If you want to use it, refer and use it. But you should design a system economically. First of all, you should conceive the problem. And that is what will be integrated through the CDIO framework. Any questions, you can stop me at any time and you can ask me. Okay. So how to do the pinnacle definition? The pinnacle means the topmost institutions, where it is going, in that the direction is specified there. And there is a great difference between industry and institution, you must understand. One of the professors from Oxford University, who was taking class for me in Huddersfield University in UK, he was from a sociology department. He was a professor of sociology. He was telling for our engineering. Nowadays, it will become transdisciplinary. I was telling mostly economy, sociology, etc. And I simply asked him a question, sir, how old is Oxford University? Then he was telling, Oxford University is very young. It is being developing for the past 800 years, he said. So it is young, developing for the past 800 years. You must understand the basic difference between industry and institution. Institution is for long-term, very long term. And education is a very slow process. It is a process, it is a social process, but unfortunately, it is a very slowly moving process, provided education, we talk about learning. Learner must learn. That is the very basic philosophy of OBE and the framework. You should somehow facilitate the students to learn. In industry, it may be there with a particular trade and a particular business. For example, 20 years, 15 years, 25 years, maximum 25 years. Some of the major industries, even in India, they started with fibers, chemical fibers for the crops and all, and they have ended up in some other business like vegetables and things like that, power and all. I'm not blaming and talking ill about any particular industry. Any industry must be keep on changing according to the requirement of the society and human being. On the other hand, the educational institutions is for learning as the primary one, not teaching. learning, it is a slow process. You should not go behind the industry. You should take the industry and segregate your portions into a fundamental core concept, which is disciplinary concept, and the contemporary core concept. That is the idea. And you must find out who are your students now and find out their learner characteristics. And according to the disciplinary approach, according to the holistic approach of your particular discipline, you may have to design the aspiring learner characteristics, where exactly you are taking them. And that must be defined in the Pinnacle definition. We will see about it. And CPIO, why I call it, it talks about it originated from the 4 pillars of education, which was defined by UNESCO sometime in this millennium, in 2008, 2014, 2015, the version 2, etc. came. And UNESCO defined the 4 pillars of education. They have done a lot of survey, particularly from the Western world, what exactly students of higher education want, what they require. And there are so many published work on engineering technology students, what they required. And currently, before this, particularly this Gen Zs, what they require and what they want is happiness. And that has been brought out and beautifully defined by MIT United States in the form of a standard and also a framework called CDIO. And we will put both together how to move from the Pinnacle definition to the practice of your instructions. We'll do so. I will also quote from different people. One more thing I want to request you. You can take my notes or my slides freely. There is no problem. In fact, the biggest problem is going to be training of trainers. So you can very well take. But whenever you see a blue color text, this you may have to do research for your institution. So the Pinnacle definition, institute to institute, it may differ. So if you take my presentations and just like that, put it and copy it or something, I don't say that you're going to copy it. We are all learned people. We will not do it. You can take it as a, for consulting, you may take it, but you may have to do research for your institutions. Research with respect to your current learners and where exactly you're taking them in the form of the Pinnacle definition, which should include the aspiring learner characteristics. And I will give many publications I have taken from elsewhere, maybe more than 250 publications, particularly in OBE and all. And whatever I have taken, I might have used in italics, just like that I produced. Something which is not italics is my own interpretation. Killan says many education systems across the world, even in India, they have considered only the superficial aspects of OBE, but have completely ignored its principle. I have mentioned here only for accreditation purposes. Maybe 1,000 institutions in India or more than that. They are writing the Pinnacle definition vision, mission, PEO, and they have considered some 12 standards published by Washington Accord or ABET or Dublin Accord or Seoul Accord, whatever be the accord. And they are simply copying and putting it, and they are not even giving the statement of POs. And even though our NDA has given, facilitated you to define your own PSO, program specific outcome. In my opinion, both are same. I do not know, everything is program dependent, and why should they call PSO? But we will utilize that and then define your own standards for India and for your local characteristics and in Indian education system in engineering technology. For example, around 80 to 90% of the engineering technology trades are with non-formal sectors in India. For example, spare parts in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or electronics engineering, reuse of that spare parts by repairing the original system. India is standing #1 in the world. I repeat, in use of spare parts, manufacturing of spare parts in mechanical, electrical, electronics, and other disciplines. Unfortunately, they are lying with the non-formal business sectors in India, even though India's top ranking in the world. Another problem with India is riches. The richest nation, with riches is there in India. But we are not unable to even grasp that. For example, if some mechanical engineers could start manufacture of musical instruments in India, he is going to be #1 in the world. But unfortunately, musical instruments are not with engineering and technology. It is separately available, like that jewelry making and things like that. There are so many sectors, thousands, which are unfortunately lying away from engineering technology. And right now, with the using this NEP 2020, teachers can bring them to the main fold of engineering technology in India, and India will definitely be top of the world, provided you mention as a standard here. So you may have to create these standards. How they are not been done, we will see about this. This is not being practiced using this OBE, unfortunately, not only in India, what Killen says is throughout the world. Now let us see how they have originated so that you can define the pinnacle definition very clearly. You must also understand how the standards have been practiced elsewhere. These are all started maybe in 1989 to 1994 when Washington Accord was signed. Before that, much before that, a bet was there in 1930s, around 56 years before when they started here. That also was standard, but what they were calling about is learning objectives, because in outcome-based education, no objective is defined. It is not possible to define an objective beforehand. It is illogical, particularly in engineering technology. You cannot do so. But outcome-based education is objective-driven. That is up to the teacher. You cannot specify. That is why some of the terms they have used it here. When they started, but they were having individual accords between certain countries. If you look at these countries which started in 1989, putting together, these are all well-developed English-speaking Western nations. And they wanted to have a common horizontal movement of professional engineers and not education. This is, you have to underline this. When Washington Accord was signed, that was first not meant for education, not meant for students. That was meant for graduates who will become professional engineers. If you go to Institution of Engineers, when you become an MIE or FIE, they also give a certificate recently. Um, I had a problem there when I was in abroad. I had quoted for some quotations for developing a software in a country called Lesotho, a landlocked country in South Africa, for developing a software for their using Unix. They wanted to develop for their hospital management. Thinking that I may not get it, I had applied for that 6.5 crores in the 80s. Suddenly, after a few months, I was shortlisted. And I was spellbound. How fantastic, what is that? But they say you should have a degree, a professional engineering certificate in computer science recognized by UK. Otherwise, it's not. Otherwise, they were ready to give. I spellbound. I say, what is professional engineering certificate? After coming back to India, I applied to Institution of Engineers. They were not having at that time. Afterwards, only they started introducing professional engineers to give consultancies. I could not get that job because of that. I could not get that contract because of that. A software development contract. I would have become a topmost. Okay. Uh, this was the original idea. So horizontal movement of professional engineers across the Western world, Western countries. And therefore, naturally, they'll be having a vested interest with them. They may not have an interest with other developing nations. This is in my opinion. In my own personal opinion, India, when it signed in 2014, shouldn't have. But that is, again, when we talk about some politics, we will not go into politics and all. But a teacher must know the world scenario, because they should know about WTO's role and the World Trade Organization, Geneva, and the other things like the economic, World Bank, and International Monetary Fund, and so on. See, when this Western world gives some, sends some products which we are interested in buying, maybe some defense products, etc. The price is fixed by the WTO. And instead, we are sending some of our products like mangoes, tea, etc. Again, WTO fixes the price, and there is a huge imbalance between the trade. So an engineer must know the macroeconomics and all, so that we talk about engineering. We will come back to engineering technology, but we should know the scenario. Uh, because of this trade imbalance between these developing nations and the developed nations, how to solve that problem? We cannot buy that, particularly African countries and all cannot buy a huge equipment, manufactured equipments from developed nations and so on. So it is called structural adjustment. What the WTO says is, World Bank, I will tell, you give some funds with a lower interest so that it will balance out the trade imbalances. And that should be in social sectors like health and education and so on. So India was under the education till recently, around just 1.5 years. I read it in newspaper. What happened is India will be forced to sign, isn't it? Whether they have been forced or not, we do not know. Invariably, it appears that they will have their Western interests. So the standards like the POs will be helping them in developing their products, their business trade, things like that. They may not bother about our requirement. But recently, they have done beautiful. Our present finance minister, I read it in newspaper, like our Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman has done a wonderful work that for structural adjustments, education should not come. They were resisting. No, it's not possible. Then she said, Swachh Bharat is also a social sector, so the trade imbalance could be brought in for structural adjustment. They were not saying what is Swachh Bharat. They were in it. But India explained to them, and even countries like China, South Africa, etc., they supported us. And fortunately, education was removed. Just 1.5 years back, I read it in newspaper. And the news I'm just telling. So now, no need to bother about POs. Why bother about that? We can do ourselves. Even China, when they signed the Washington Accord, they were only observing members. But later, in 2016, when China declared the Qingdao Declaration, they used a CDI form, which was declared by United Nations, which was based upon the United Nations. And that is why they signed, and they are going with that. Unfortunately, we are yet to practice. Moreover, CDIO gives a framework for the teaching learning process. That is why I want to give an introduction about that, so that you can use OBE. OBE will be the philosophy and practices, principles of the new education policy, and it can be used in engineering technology. Okay, how they interpret it for students now? When they say the same thing could be used with students, provided the millennial education is for professional engineering practice, no doubt about it. In engineering education in the 21st century, in the last millennium, when they introduced the Washington Accord, the education should be in line with industry. That is why I say in industry, an engineer, when he goes, he will be given with a problem, a real world problem, which will be transdisciplinary in nature. You cannot say that I belong to only civil engineering. I know only mechanical engineering. I am only electrical engineering. I can't see with chemical. I cannot see with the economy, aesthetics. What is this beauty and all? You will lose your job. In the sense, you should accept, you should be proactive in taking up a real world problem. Your engineering will be there, no doubt, but it will be imbibed with other qualities. So when this is going to be the practice, education should take care in line with industries. That is why they changed the POs with respect to industries requirement, industrial requirements and so on. Okay, so the horizontal movement now will be possible from, let us say, a third year mechanical engineering students in Australia could continue his fourth year mechanical engineering in Canada or some other institutions, provided that standard called POs must satisfy. It should be same or similar POs in both the institutions. So it is the standards, simply putting that standards and painting it and displaying it in engineering college is not going to work. I have seen that one, and I am seeing what is that you have done. We have painted, this is what the NBA says, sir. We have done it and we have displayed in this thing. I feel it personally, it is a waste of money in painting. Why are you doing so? It is not this PO they are starting about. It is the PO statement which is taken from the PO standards of Washington Accord or whatever accord, or even CDIO, but you must define with your pinnacle definition. And here comes the pinnacle definition. It should be in line with that. And you must work out from the standards to then only it will come. And that is why I am going to introduce you to CDIO. A CDIO, how it came, it is because of this signing of the Washington Accord and things like that. Engineering education till the end of the last century was practiced as a engineering science and not engineering practice in the sense, in the real sense of industries. This was not there around 150 years back or so. Even in engineering colleges like the Gindi Engineering College in Chennai, which was started 100 years back, 100 and odd years back. It was started as a surveying school to satisfy as a surveyor for the Britishers, the British Raj were using. So at that time, the practice was there, no doubt. Later, it was developed and slowly moved into engineering science. And it cannot be pure science because it is applied. It uses core bases, some of the core bases in its logic. As I was telling, the disciplinary logic, along with the contemporary core logics of the industries to bring in, and that is what we are going to talk about, competencies in a little while. But this engineering practice was not, somehow it vanished, and up to 2008, when CDIO came, they realized not only in India, throughout the world, this is what it happened. So what is that? And engineers coming out, graduating from an institute had an issue that these people were competent enough in the engineering subjects, no doubt about it. They will say immediately what is Ohm's law, what is this law, what is that law, blah, 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 what is the formula used, and then put that formula in a contrived examples. Like take an example of something, some dimensions, etc. They are able to do the design. But they do not know what is engineering. Industrial rigor. Industrial rigor talks about economy, aesthetics, environmental awareness, societal problem, economy, and commerce and trade and international trade, futuristic study, where exactly it's going to move up, etc., which is not realized by the students. This is what they were facing the problem, and that is why when they talked about the accords, the professional engineers, I repeat, it is not educationists, professional engineers, when they came by the around the end of the last century in the form of different accords like Washington Accord, etc. And they said, first, your graduates from your institutes should be prepared for their very first job. They should be productive. This is what they say. Educational institution, we are all teachers. We know that cannot be done. If they are going to prepare only for a particular product, it is going to change. Say, for example, engineering technology, the subject content, 50% of it is going to become obsolete in 4 to 5 years' time. Full engineering technology, including civil, mechanical, etc. And disciplines like mechanical engineering will disintegrate into embedded systems, like in automobile engineering. More than 50% are electronics now, and it's going to vanish like that. And in production, mostly it will be computerized. It will be numerically controlled manufacturing machines is going to come. In management also, computers are going to play a major role there. Now, what is going to happen if you take circuit branches, electronics and communication engineering, or instrumentation engineering? Within 3 years, 50% of the content is going to be obsolete. And in IT, information technology and computer science and engineering, 50% are going to be obsolete in 1 year time. That means in a 4-year degree course, whatever they are going to learn, your engineers are going to come out, they are not able to use anything at all. That is going to be the scenario in industry. And now you should be very careful in doing. It's going to become obsolete. Only the contemporary core logics are going to be obsolete. One of the terminologies used by a professor from MIT used the word contemporary core logics in the CDIO framework. So it is the fundamental core logics, which is called disciplinary core, must be there. So that is what they say an engineering teacher must concentrate in the fundamental disciplinary knowledge and not bother much about contemporary core. You leave it to your students through self-regulated learning, and they are going to run and say, sir, this is the contemporary core. This is what is being adapted by a company, a software development company here, a manufacturing company there, in United States there, and everything they are going to bring. And you be there in the fundamental disciplinary knowledge. This is what industries also require. I have talked with several industry people from industry. They say, why these people are running behind us, which we are going to change once in a year, once in 6 months, our products are going to change. And if you are going to keep on changing in the syllabi, it is going to become an ever-increasing syllabi. And where exactly the education system will go, that is what the education system is suffering. It has gone to the rock bottom now in the engineering. And through this, NEP 2020 clearly says that disciplinary knowledge you concentrate, and mostly the fundamental knowledge, which is going to be there maybe for 25, 30, 50 years, it's going to be there. It's not going to change. Only the contemporary will be changing. So you should not treat the topics of interest for teaching your students. Rather, you should take an engineering concept with the real world scenario. And that is what CPIO insists upon. We will see about it in a little while. So the engineering practice, when they say for the first job, if you are going to concentrate, we cannot grow as an engineering institution. And they say, what is that? The first job? Then they realized, no, this is what if you want. And you want us to grow our students for lifelong learning, for lifelong earning, not much, for lifelong earning with lifelong learning, or only for the first job. We can prepare an excellent engineers for the first job, but this is what. Then these people, non-academicians, but from professional engineers and industries, looked at it. Oh, they must use educational institutions for according standards. They cannot do it. That is why they joined with the educational institutions. And they rethought, and then they brought out with consultation from educationists, and they formed the birth of exit outcome scheme. The exit outcome is not only for the growth of the students, mentally, intellectually also, and for the industry ready. This is what they thought. An International Engineering Alliance came just recently, 2015 it came, and we will talk about the second version of the CDIO right now. Unfortunately, this was spelled out, and not explicitly, but in line with, in the form of OBE by our NEP 2020. So you go through the NEP 2020, and then you will understand where exactly we will take our students up. Okay. They said, look, we are giving you only the destination. Industries are telling, professional engineers. We will give the destinations in the form of, let us say, graduate attributes. Your students, when they come out from the institute for our industry, should be good in communication, should be aware of modern tool use. They should know about their contribution as an engineer and society. They should have the working ethics or industry ethics and things like that. They should also have the basic knowledge with science and background, and design comes, so design should be there, and some problem analysis and complexity in analysis, etc., with 4 core, with 4 skill or hard skill, and 4 abilities or societal requirements, and so on. This is the destination. How to come out? Is it that is not our job? That is, the route is not specified, route is yours. That is why our institutions, most of the institutions, write a vision, mission as a pinnacle definition. Okay, right? It is very simple. I tell you, I should not tell here through this thing because I think it will be recorded. You simply copy from some book, and you copy from here, you refer to this thing, write in half an hour pinnacle definition like vision, and then mission. And then PEO copy from here and there. I don't say that you are all copying, but it is possible to write 5 minutes, 10 minutes PEO, put it, and then refer to the 12 standard and putting it as a display with a painting and all. Forget about it. And then start with the linear, traditional, syllabus oriented, examination driven, input output system, which has spoiled that education system, and it has come to rock bottom of our engineering education. And if you're going, time has come now, right now. If we don't change, we will perish. Engineering education is going to perish in the near future if you are not going to realize this mistake. And we must come back and all with the industrial real, a total revamp of our education system, and it is in the hands of teachers. That is why full freedom is given to teachers and students. It says, again, I repeat, NDP 2020, it says even government cannot interfere with teachers. It will remain there. It is up to you to frame. But it also says concentrate on the disciplinary core mostly. And industry, yes, but the industrial core in the form of contemporary core, the students are going to bring in the form of self-regulated learning, and they are going to bring in that one. You allow them. So it is going to be a learner-centric approach, and teachers are going to, role play is going to be as a facilitator. How to design that route, we will come to the CDI. CDIO is also a standard like Washington Accord, etc. Only thing is, it has got some 19 standards and later standards too came in 2011 and all. It is in this millennium it came. When ABET or Washington Accord or some other accord came from industries and what? Professional engineers, and not from education institutions. They wanted to use the education system for the vested interest of the Western country. This is my opinion, my personal opinion. These standards are for the Western nation. Something like a standard. Where is the standard for reusing spare parts and safety with the entrepreneurship spirit? And all, we have millions upon millions of engineers, industries, and 90% are with the non-formal sectors, and India is richest with the riches. And where to go? No other country has got like that. Who will take care by putting that as a standard? It is not possible there with that standard. If we go to CDIO, this was brought by the 4 pillars of UNESCO. UNESCO also is aligned towards Western nation. I'm not going to talk about the politics right now. Even UNESCO, but right now in this millennium, many developing countries have felt that, and then particularly India has felt that. See, that we have to develop our nation first, but bring the technology from elsewhere, no problem, because the world has shrunk. We are going to contribute to the world also, no doubt about it, for the global development and for the development of India. So this is going to be the future. The political, this thing will vanish. It is going to be competency that's going to matter. And it lies with the hands of teachers and nobody else, because the teachers must be aware of this thing. And that is why you must be prepared to lead your students. And you must understand the gap, which is also very critical right now. And understanding, conceptualizing the engineering and industry and education is looking like a very complex problem, but the time has come when you must understand and then switch over and get into that system, leaving that traditional system to that. This is what we have to understand the CDIO's framework. It was given by MIT, which is an educational institution of the United States. And depending upon the UNESCO's 4 pillars of education, and it is not like a Washington Accord and so on. This is, we'll talk about Africa, talk about Asia and things like that. It has got one of the 4 pillars to understand the self. The self, they have done a lot of feedback survey from the particularly Western world students. I have also interacted with students of England, in the central England, sometime back. I have interacted and I found that, I don't say that you have to create something like a hatred kind of thing, not like that. Our Indians are much, much better. That is what I feel, in logical thinking and analytical ability and things like that. Only thing is, we come forward, we just keep quiet. That simplicity is there with us, which is good, no doubt about it. But when we are talking about engineering, technology, you must understand this one fact. We are not low. We can think, amplitude ability, and this thing, our students are not at all low. Only thing is, we are unable to, we want somebody to lead, because of the spoon feeding happened in the school system has made in the higher education also, they do not know what is autonomous learning, what is self-regulated learning and so on. So one of the things they must know the intrapersonal ability, like communication. Two communications are spelled out by CDA. One together, that is interpersonal ability. Another one is intrapersonal, which includes project management, finance, entrepreneurship, etc. Here, team spirit, which is for society, together, they must know ethics, engineering, society. Another communication within group, how to do. Here, communication, the ability to speak out, you know, and to know basic engineering and to do. They have differentiated too. In your educational institutions, you must concentrate in the engineering technology, something like analyzing, design, etc. Say, for example, detailing is not there. But in India, detailing, without detailing, there is no engineering technology. Detailing is not at all there in Washington Accord or this thing. Explicitly not specified, like safety, not specified explicitly. When you do with these things, you can bring out your own PSO and put detailing. You cannot segregate detailing from design because detailing is done by manufacturing sectors in abroad. Detailing here is for reusing and repair in India and some countries like Taiwan and Thailand, some countries. India is leading number one in the world in spare parts and things like that. So where is the standard? So we must put design and detailing apart from the basic knowledge. And another one is to do, here comes the industrial practices. To conceive is not to know. It is to conceptualizing a real world problem. Then design for it. Then implement, where comes the societal responsibility. When you implement, it comes the engineering society, ethics and awareness of environment, etc. When it is going to be operated upon, we must use our societal requirements, like the use of our labor force and the requirement of India, how it is going to be. So when you understand the concepts, engineering technology concepts under to know, to apply with respect to our society and elsewhere. So these things must be reflected in the pinnacle definition. Now, when my topic of interest is to define them in the pinnacle definition, you must go through this before defining in the pinnacle definition. And before we go to the pinnacle definition, where exactly the education principle comes, like the OBE, I will connect these codes with my framework. CDI was not only standards, it's also a framework. It gives rationale and evidence, rationale and evidence. Rationale, why do you want to do? Evidence in the form of learning outcome, not only the statements, the real learning outcome, which the students will be attaining. Now here, when the CDIO is also a framework in the form of rationale and evidence, it uses engineering practice in the form of conceiving or conceptualizing an engineering problem, design, implement, etc. It also gives the route, which was not given by Washington Accord or Abbott or any other accord like Dublin Accord or Seoul Accord. They are all giving destination only in the form of graduate activity. After graduation, after 3 years or 5 years, the engineer should be, your graduate should be good at communication skill, good at this, good at that, etc., etc. They have given, let us say, in the form of 12 graduate attributes. This is the destination given. Where is the route? It is not given. But CDIO gives the route, but model it is not giving. It is giving in a framework called rationale and evidence. At each point, how to get that SLOs, the students' learning outcome, they have given, CDA was given, but all depends upon an educational philosophy or educational psychology called OBE. OBE is outcome-based education. When we talk about education, it never talks about a model, it never talks about a particular industry, it never talks about mechanical engineering or civil engineering or computer science, etc. It could be anything. For example, even if I do not know about philosophy and very highly intellectually oriented subject matter, I do not know, like philosophy or anthropology, I do not know. But it is possible to bring the humanities and science also, because when aesthetic comes, it comes automatically. It is called as psychology. Many psychologists have called it as educational psychology, which is why we must understand, because we must understand learning. Unfortunately, the teacher in engineering technology have understood only teaching, telling, and not about learning. Whether the fellow, fellow means the student, is understanding the concept, or is he able to grow? Your level, your state in the classroom is not with the students. This is a very misfortune, unfortunate thing. This you must find out from OBE. OBE gives a root, a philosophy, or a psychology because it talks about learning. So we must understand first what is learner centric, and from the difference between what from teacher led to learner centric. The learner centric is not that simple to understand. Not like simply telling learners are learning and teacher led means teacher is teaching. It is not that. It is a world of a difference is there. When the horse is thirsty, you must find out that the horse is thirsty. And you take the horse to the pond. Then the horse must drink water. You cannot drink, uh, quench your thirst by yourself. Isn't that? This is a mistake a teacher was doing. Now he must act as a facilitator to find out what he requires, and you must tell very clearly in the beginning of our engineering technology education system. Look, so far you have been spoon-fed in the school system, and now you are going to become an engineer. The responsibility of learning is yours. You must tell very clearly. Then you will wonder why. If the responsibility is mine, what for you are getting a salary? That is a different thing. You must put them in other terms. See, I am telling you, the responsibility of learning lies with you. Development of you in an overall competency, I am committed. A teacher is committed for that overall development of the student to become a graduate with graduate attributes. Competencies is what the teacher is committed. But who is learning? The responsibility in learning lies with the student. There will be some problem initially, but he's going to understand slowly and he's going to do it. That is the trick of a teacher, and it's going to be an acid test for the teacher. And all the practices will be different. You must consider a holistic outlook, a bigger picture, a broader goal, which is transdisciplinary in nature, not only interdisciplinary, not only cross-disciplinary, not only multidisciplinary. It will be transdisciplinary with societal requirements, with aesthetics may come. You cannot say, why should I bother about beauty when I am an engineer? It should work well. No, nobody is going to take your engineering product or a project or a service unless you talk about aesthetics. Because a person would like to have an appealing outcome, then only he will consume. That is the nature of a human being. So a broader goal, a bigger picture comes. You must teach for mastery, which includes competency, not only testing his ability in the core. In fact, we should not test. Test means they don't like. Nobody likes. In fact, even personally, you cannot test anyone. Who are you to test? You can only assess. Assess means assessing him, assessing the system, assessing you continuously for the development, not for testing him and then say you pass or fail. It is not there. In the OBE doesn't consider examination as the final mark. In fact, Oxford University, I was told, it is less than 12% for the final year examination. And no students virtually go to the examination hall to write. It is all continuous formative assessment because you have given responsibility to the student. Assessment also involves self-assessment, peer-to-peer assessment, group assessment, and assessment by elsewhere. You can also assess if there is a problem in self-evaluation, he brings it. If there is a problem with senior students evaluating that, they bring it. Then only you come into picture. Otherwise, it is only assessing. Continuous formation. Is it developing not only in the core area? It is the imbibed qualities like skill and attitude and so on. That is for mastery. And the time bound is not there. I will quote what Rabindranath Tagore, when he started Vishwabharati University in Shantiniketan around 100 years back. He said, all are genius, all are genius, all can bloom, all will bloom, but not on the same day, not in the same way. Each one will have a different approach. Each one's nature is different because his emotional aspects are different. So he will come in a different way. But all are genius, this is what he said. Are later, 100 years later than Rabindranath Tagore, William Spalding, one of the pioneers in outcome-based education, says all can graduate. All can graduate, not in the same way, not in the same time, not on the same day, not at the same time. It will be flexible. Somebody may take 4.5 years to graduate. Somebody may take 5 years, 6 years, but he will have a mastery in his own multidisciplinary area. He may include art, fine arts, what is there? Sociology or humanities will come mostly. Music, become a mechanical engineer, could go and learn music. Maybe he may be interested in turning them instruments for manufacturing. He may going to start because India is going to have a very high potential for manufacturing musical instruments when it is brought to engineering technology. He may be thinking like that. Similarly, in arts and students would want to do a language, students would like to learn computer science because in India, 22, 23 languages we require automated translations. And who will do it? We should have our own Unicode in economically, efficiently to do that. Who is going to do that? He may be like to learn computer science and so on. So it will not be time bound. It will be competency based. It will be flexible. So your entire education system must be thematic for designing down and delivering up. So it cannot be linear. It will be non-linear. Oh, so how to define this quality education? We will see the pinnacle definition. Now, when we come to the pinnacle definition, I'm terribly sorry. What time we are going to stop, madam? And keep on talking. Anybody can give a feedback? Are we going in the right direction? Excuse me.
Yes, sir. It is up to 12 o'clock.
Listening, I do not know. I could see some 66 participants. Speak out, somebody. You can switch on.
It is up to 12, sir.
Yes, sir, we are listening.
Okay,
sir.
okay. I can take it. Okay. Any questions, please? Anybody? Any questions from the participants? You can switch on the mic and tell. At least, are we going in the right direction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you are telling me. Yes, you know me.
Actually, you are giving a very broad perspective about this, sir.
Yes, yes. I'm giving a very broad perspective. I do not know how many of you are repeating because I will come because it's a very large lecture series.
Yeah.
I have over 1,000 and odd slides.
No, sir. It's really nice session. Please go on.
Okay, okay. Right, thank you. Oh, you are a participant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you. What's your name?
I'm Nishreen Pathan, sir. I'm from Gujarat.
Oh, very nice. Very nice to hear. I'm at least happy that somebody is doing that. Because even if, let us say, 30, 35 teachers take it very seriously, these 30, 35 teachers will become trainers for another 30, 35 who will be interested in. So 35 to 35 into 35, I think in 1.5 years, I need to reach the entire system of our higher education system.
So the only thing I was surprising is the concepts introduced somewhere in US in 2004 and 14. We are now talking about it.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
we need to act very fast to
Yeah, we have
face
to
with
act
the
very
world.
fast
Yeah.
and we have to bring our own standard. Why not Gujarat standard? Why can't we start in Gujarat our own standard? After all these 12 standards, if you look at that, less than 50% talk about our requirements in India. And our NB also has given free hand. Yeah, NAC has given free hand to define your program specific outcome. Why can't we bring our own this thing, standards? Okay, very well done.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
go ahead with that. So the pinnacle definition will lead your institute in a particular direction. If you say a boat is being drawn by a group of people putting their thing and it is moving here, and another 50% are putting rowing in the opposite direction, and the captain is saying, where are we going? We are going nowhere. Come on, put your efforts, if they say. And if they continue to do so, it is directionless. The boat cannot move anywhere. This is what will happen if you don't define very clearly with your core values of a particular institute. OBE says very clearly, you institute to institute, you cannot compare. Similarly, student to student, you cannot compare. Some student will be good at problem analysis. Some other student will be good at designing. Some other student will be putting always his environmental aspects in the design. Somebody will bother about much about the societal requirements. Somebody will be entrepreneurship and things like that. All put together, each one will be gaining some competency. And this is what is going to. So you cannot compare between student and student, institute and institute. You cannot compare. Then you define the pinnacle definition. It is spearheading to a defined future. It could be for 20 years, 25 years, and things like that. When your institute core values, you must define very, very clearly, like the one in Session-1, they are defined. If you are defining with core values, somebody is going to talk about the writing of vision, mission, etc. Three aspects should be born in mind. One, in academic life. Academic excellence and things like that, in what area we are going to grow. I will go a little bit quickly and I will show you an example of PEO definition by two institutions, how exactly it is going. So in one side, when you are defining it a proper, appropriate definition, it should match with their core values. If the core value says that it is for minorities, it is for uplifting rural society in pan-Indian condition. For example, we are interested in pan-India only or pan-Asia, then you must define that this particular institute or a particular program is for uplifting the poor of rural masses in India, for example, pan-Indian condition. Another institute which is defining, it is for global product development, like Microsoft or the one who have designed, particularly in the United States and all. We are interested in global product development. We are in the global perspective we are going. So this will go in totally different direction. I don't say you should not go, you should go only in India. And even if you're going in for product development, you should clearly define. Otherwise, it will be directionless. That much importance you should show in the core values. The core values do not change, maybe for 50 years, 100 years by the institution, like Oxford University or the Shantiniketan, Vishwa Bharati University. They don't change the core values. But the vision statement should be aligned with that. And that may change because that may be for 10 years. For example, I'm telling, in mechanical engineering, that may be for 7 years for computer science, or that may be for 15 years for civil engineering. Could be there. And that must be defined clearly with respect to core values. And then constituents form a very important role. Unfortunately, we may not talk about that, which they're bridging the gap between the core values and the vision, mission, and your particular programs goal. Another goal comes for governing that, these constituencies come. And when you are going to define the second definition in the form of objectives, the objectives come here because it is our education system is going to be objective driven. But objective, when you're going to specify only here, which links up specific goal by a program, by a lead discipline, let us say EEE or an ECE department, that should be precise target of attaining this institute vision or your vision, if your program vision, that will be targeted with the institution vision, and that is drawn from the core value. So one is academic, another one is societal requirement, another one is civic requirement of the particular student communities. One is his interpersonal ability. Intrapersonal is for the abilities of the student, civic requirements, and the interpersonal abilities for the society, which is talking about his attitude towards the society. And then academic. So academic, social, that is society, and civic requirements. These three components come in an educational institution's pinnacle definition. So another definition has been put for long-term goal in the form of objectives, PEO. And there comes the outcome. Now, the outcome is nothing to do with, I won't say nothing to do with, but right now I have to use the word because there's a confusion between long-term goal specified by a teacher and the outcome attained by the student. How is it possible when it is going to be a learner-centric approach? This is an outcome statement using a standard. And then comes the courses under the program. Now, the courses under the program need not be only from the disciplinary area, the lead discipline. If it's a mechanical engineering, some core from arts could be there, fine arts could be there. And the language program, English department or department of Gujarati, for example, could be there under a computer science, because the students of that discipline, language discipline, could come and learn a particular course, natural language processing in computer science, for instance, the example I'm telling. So the program outcome of computer science should have the course outcome of arts, fine arts, or a language department also could come. They should be aligned with. Otherwise, the student cannot take in competency-based education. It is partial credit what we are talking about. A vertical movement of the credit. It is not like the previous time we had a 3-credit course, means the entire one semester, 3 credits will be offered. In a partial credit system, after 1 credit, let us say after 45 weeks, after 15 weeks, 1 credit, some students will go from, let us say, from arts. In computer science, after getting 1 credit, it may be gradable or non-gradable, he may go. And another set of students might go to an industry and gain 1.5 credits from that. That will be accounted in the national credit policy. So the entire look of the education system is different from the linear education system, what we are talking about. So the courses must be aligned with a particular, in the form of COs and POs, and nothing to do with your program. If you talk about computer science, you want the networking or programming techniques or multi this thing, graphics, etc. Not only that, it could be other disciplines could come, but it should match. And then comes the most important aspects, the learning outcome. The learning outcome is the real outcome. There are 400, 500 outcomes specified by educationists like best practices, Jonathan, Tessmer, David Merrill, and Robert Mazzano, and things like that. The 400, 500 outcomes are there, learning outcomes. They are the real outcomes, like articulating socio-culture is an outcome. We cannot change the term. And articulating content or semantic mapping. And those outcomes must match with the statements here. POs, PCOs are statements made by the teacher. And this is drawn, and this is the one which you are going to test, not test, assess the student whether he is attained or not. The activities are proportional to this pyramid. The student activities and the documents which are going to create will be more here. That is why I put it like a pyramid. And let us take one component here. It was developed by some group, some constituency, somebody. And another component, and the fourth one, this component. They are all in component. And now we will go to quality of education. Now, our NEP 2020 clearly says that freedom will be given, etc., everything fine, but without compromising the quality. What is quality? Quality means no compromise in any component could be one definition. You know, certain terms is very difficult to define, like education. What is education? If I say it is a process, okay. It is a social process, okay. It is a slowly changing social process, unfortunately. Similarly, quality. No component should be compromised. So when it is all compromised, component. If you are treating them differently, then it is not possible to attain quality. It must be integrated. That is why a standard is required in the form of PEO, and consulting that with your pinnacle definition, you're going to define this PEO. So these two, an external body is required. You can also define yourself, as I was mentioning to you, but through an accord. Maybe you may have to bring out an accord in Gujarat, let us say, a Gujarat accord. You can bring. Doesn't matter. It may be for SAARC countries. It may be for Indian requirement. But with the consultation of these already existing POs, let us say the CDIO, you can bring your own standard. You can right now mention in the form of PSOs also. Never mind. But you must bring it. This is how we are to bring in. But how to manage this? If it is compartmentalization, it is not possible. That is what we were doing in a linear system. Instead of compartmentalization, we have to go to holism. Holism is integrating together. That is why it is not possible to talk about a particular competency like communication ability. We have a communication department. We have an English department which will take care. The English people should come, no doubt about it. A very important role will be played by the humanities and sciences, but you cannot treat them in isolation. Yet what is required by a student who is coming from a, let us say, a remote village from India, he is coming to learn mechanical engineering in your institution. He will ask, what is going to be the outcome of learning from your institution? I'm paying my money as a fee because it is a business now. It is no longer in the service sector, unfortunately. Even if I don't personally like it to be, but actually it is, we are moving towards business. When he comes, I'm going to pay this. What is the outcome? And if you say you are going to get a degree, he needs to say a paper which is going to say a Bachelor of Engineering. I'm no longer interested in. What is that real outcome I'm going to get? He says, you will be able to convince your client. You will be able to understand the basic thing for developing a newer thing. All those qualities we are going to put it. You are going to learn. He will understand a little bit. Oh, so that is holism. So you cannot treat the components in isolation. It must be integrated. And OBE says it is learner. Learner-centric comes here. And when the learner is put at the very central system, sorry, our time is half an hour, eh? Yeah, 12 o'clock. Okay, fine. Learner is kept at the center. Okay, then our approach, so far, a teacher was teaching this, not only teaching. The teacher was thinking that he or she was teaching, but he was telling. Like me, right now in the past 1.5 years, I was telling. Whether I do not know how many of you were listening and all. I'm not telling, maybe most of you were listening, but listening is not required. When you are telling, when you are talking, you become an audience. When the student become an audience, learning, there is no assurance that learning is taking place. It is instructing how for a particular learner characteristics and for the pinnacle definition, where exactly you are taking your students, aspiring learner characteristics, the gap you are bringing down, and who is going to do? Learner himself is going to do. So the learner, you are going to facilitate him, and the responsibility of learning lies with learner. And this must be clearly told to him in the very beginning. And this is what we were not doing. The students automatically want spoon feeding. They want, please give me notes because you are going to test me in the final examination, whether pass or fail. And I am listening. You are also asking him, are you listening? Are you listening? He's going to say yes, yes, yes. And he is going to listen through left ear and going to leave out the right ear. And he is going to laugh at the fellow student and is going to say that this teacher is giving an outdated information which was there 28 years back. And now I will give you with Google search or Yahoo search, you see from mobile phone, I will give 108 different information. And what the information given by the teacher is outdated, is wrong now. This is what he is going to do. Now he's going to laugh at you. And the system, you are going to test what were told to them by the teacher. Unfortunately, this thing. I'm not blaming the teacher. Teachers are wonderful in India. That is why outside what they are looking at us. Our teachers, our system is gone wrong. That is the problem. And now one more aspect which is coming as metacognition. We were not knowing. That is why psychology we are bringing in. Psychologists are going to play a very important role. But there is a problem with them. They don't even use the word learning. They use the word conditioning. They don't even use the word education. They use modeling and things like that. They are interested in behavior, no problem. But we have no other goal but to get them here in engineering technology. Because we do not know anything about learner-centric approach. We do not know anything about metacognition. This is awareness of one's own learning. An engineer learner should know that he is learning by himself. And this is a black box kind of thing. A teacher must ascertain something is going wrong. A placement is not getting. He will tell, I'm not getting a placement. He will say, he doesn't know. No, he is growing because he is developing. So you cannot put the blame on that. You may say responsibility in learning doesn't mean that I will walk away. Nobody is going to test. You are going to assess yourself whether you are going to learn. Are you learning happily? There will be some problem in the beginning. He might say that, well, I do not know whether I'm learning. But when you say you are going to assess yourself and tell me how much marks you will put for this, he's going to put, I'm going to put 95%. Okay, fine. If you are fine with the 95%, you are taking the responsibility. Then you slowly will come up. Am I right with this thing? Okay, I will put a senior student who will be given, he will not do free of cost. See, everything is, nothing is free. So a senior student will be given with a credit among 140 credit or some credit which our national body has specified. 2 credits given to senior students if you are assessing your junior student. Why a teacher is taking all the monkeys on your head? There is no time. In outcome-based education, a teacher is going to get a plenty of personal time. You leave the responsibility to the learners. They also want that. I have interacted with thousands of students. I have got feedbacks from them. They are telling why teachers are wasting time in giving us what is this, what is pointer, what is data structure, what is it we can get it from internet. They should give only the concept, like a complex concept, like why pointers have been removed from Java. Why it was there in C? What is the danger in using pointer? This is what we want from teachers to talk about. This is what we want. How Android became very successful, leaving the Symbian operating system in the mobile phones. Then the Android talks about device independence. What is device independence? Then from Unix, how Linux came and how again re-entered this device independence in Android operating system. This is what we want from students. This is what the students were telling. We cannot get it from internet. But what is this? What is that? You explain this, describe that, they can get it. And why not you allow them to refer to the book and then make open book? 90% of the engineering technology, you leave them open book exam, open book test, but you analyze where they are developing. Now the teacher is going to act like a facilitating manager. He or she is going to act like a designer and not for telling the student. This is a major difference in OBEs, and metacognition is scientifically we have to do it. And that lies with psychologists and so on. So any component, if there is a problem, yes, learner is facing a problem and component must be changed. Learner doesn't know. It is the job of the teacher to go and change. Oh, this is not working. I will give an innovative method of learning so that he learns that. You must understand metacognition with teacher also in the learning. If time permits, I can give a story by Jagadguru Adi Shankara, how he took that metacognition for teaching his students. Some of you may be knowing about Totacharya, who was given another with the Padmapada, another very learned student. When they had a problem, how he dealt with metacognition in learner-centric approach. This happened thousands of years back, more than 1,000 years back at least. Okay. Now the organization of the component for integration and not for treating in isolation. Bottom up in delivery, but top down in design, because it is, you can start anywhere. There is no single document in curriculum. In curriculum, according to OBE and the CDIO, it cannot be kept in a single document like your linear system, which you are doing it. So it is a living organism. You cannot dissect any part of your curriculum. It is having an entry level at any point, and there is no exit. So it is always development. So your system must be developmental education system, and which is non-linear invariably. And it is using some model which CDIO gives, a reclining model. You can start anywhere using the concepts only. Not that you are covering topics. You are uncovering the concepts of a student in engineering. That is what it's all about. And is a learner's competency-based credit system, is what NEP 2020 says. Okay, unlike TLE, time-bound, linear, syllabus-oriented education system, the component is changed or altered or modified all the time. So the central theme is affected, you change. Like the agile system, TQM, the total quality management will not work here. That is gone now. It is agile. Agile is incremental and iterative process. I think there is a problem with, I think Nokia introduced or Corolla car company or IBM. Let us not get into all that. So the TQM is for a linear system, even though it is for total quality, it will not work. Like many systems to find out the weakness of a students, like SWOT analysis and all is not there. It is SOAR, that is strength, opportunities, aspiration and results, not like that. There will not be any threat between institute to institute, student to student, even country to country, it will not be there. In another 5 years or so, it will be competency based. Even getting a visa may not be a problem. They talked about it in Bangladesh 2000 recently, 47 countries participate, and they say it will be competency based visa. If you are competent enough in certain area, you can simply go to Russia. If somebody wants you, you get down there, they will put a visa. This is what they are thinking. It has not taken place immediately. Another 4 or 5 years, this is what is going to take place. Education system, we will go back to our ancient education system. Believe it or not, it started all from Upanishads. I'm not telling myself. I've got publications which says that exploratory learning method, which is a part of the outcome-based education, and even CDA professors say it originated in ancient India. It was in thousands of years back. This was a learner-centric approach. I have a very lot of collections from me about our Katika education, which is taking place higher education system in temples. If you are going in the temple corridor, there is a platform by the side. It's called Gattika, in which you can see the idols of our ancient acharyas, or if you go to Saivet temple, you can see that 63 Nayanmas and all of them. They were all teachers. And those things took place. And in the Gurukula system, and even students going from our houses in the lower. So up to the 15 years of age, contemplating concentration, that was a learning outcome, and recalling mental ability by chanting the mantras, slokas, and that is what it is required. And the students are very well able to do until the age of 15, until the age of 14, because the applicative ability wouldn't have developed that at that age. They will love to memorize, and maximum number of memorizations. Mental ability will take place up to the age of 15. And this was understood ancient system in India. And later, reasoning ability and peer-to-peer debating and all will take place in the higher education. So the learning outcome was treated differently by our ancient system. And if we look at the exploratory learning principles, you will understand it. Developmental is like a tree. If time permits, Dharam Paul has written about a beautiful tree. The book is not available. I think 2000, you can get a copy. You read that book. A beautiful tree in our ancient Indian system, which was developmental system. Now, the development, the central trunk of the tree is the learner characteristics. A learner could come from a remote village. Let us say he will have some other quality, but he may be very shy. He may not come forward in the social movement. He may not be good at a certain language aspects. Let us say English, he may not be. But the English, I'm not professing English should be there. English is the whole language approach. This is what outcome-based education says. Whatever it may be, a villager coming from that may not be good, but he may be very good in analyzing ability. He may be a very good entrepreneur. He may start his thing. So those aspects are there. So you must allowing him to discover himself when learning. Because in a learner-centric approach, you support by other root systems like institutional characteristics, fundamental core disciplinary engineering technology, which involves disciplinary. Here comes contemporary. You must segregate them. Otherwise, it will become an ever-increasing syllabus. You must be very careful in designing your subject content. You should rethink the disciplinary core logic in the form of core logics, core basis, in fundamental characteristics, which is long term. It will be for 50 years, it won't change. But contemporary may change in 1 year, in 2 years, in mechanical engineering, maybe 4 years, and things like that. So that is outside the scenario, using which, along with the social environment, other characteristics support for the development of the learner characteristics. And the learner characteristics through outcome-based education using a framework, the context, which is CDIO, and he is going out of the institute and is developing in other qualities, yielding in, let us say, design and development, engineer and society, communication ability, project management, individual and teamwork, engineer, all these fruits as standards which you are given, he started yielding after leaving your institution. That is how he has gone. You have made him to grow in your institution, and you are concentrating from the current learner characteristics to the aspiring learner characteristics which you have defined in the pinnacle definitions. So when you are defining those two, you should be very careful in his present current learner characteristics, and how CDIO as a route is going to bring that graduate attributes, let us say, the OBE CDIO for teaching learning. Okay, got 10 minutes only. It is a very complex problem. We are not going to learn right now. We have already known. You have started writing your PEO, vision, mission, and you have referred to some standards, and you have defined yourself as PSO. All you can put it as PSO or PO statement, and CO for different courses. How to bring that one? It is a complex problem. Don't get frightened by this. This is what CDIO gives. A key learning area spelled out by our government bodies like NAC or NBA or AICTE, etc. You must put a first anatomy in bringing fundamental or disciplinary core, then contemporary core from the PO, which is related to a strategically aligned industries. Then core basis brought out from basic science, mathematics, etc., which is from a different courses you bring in, and do the first anatomy, the fundamental brought from the key learning areas specified by our government bodies, and other things are up to the teachers. Then when he designs, he brings out knowledge objects in the form of a logical arrangement of organization called structures. You may be wondering, computer scientists may be wondering, C is a structured language. What do you mean by structure? Logical arrangement, organization in a sensible manner so that you can automate it also. That's called knowledge structure. And the knowledge structure, when it is imbibed with a particular real world problem, an industrial problem, taken from your strategically aligned industries in the form of a standard statement called PSO or PO, then you combine together to form the most important aspect of instruction, which is called authentic task. The authentic task will imbibe the required life skills, which is specified in your aspiring learner characteristics, which is employability orientation you must bring. So you must select such an extent of your SLO, the SLO by Jonas and Tesmer, Barnett, Mom, Quist, who has defined the CDIO, and so many. I have got around 250 references. Most of them are recent references and all. Okay, so those learning outcome you imbibe to get the authentic task. The authentic task you must bring in for threshold concept, a concept in your lead discipline without which a student cannot move further. For example, continuity equation in mechanical engineering. So the continuity equation in the form of a partial derivative of dou delta U by delta X or plus delta V by delta Y plus delta W by delta Z equal to 0 or equal to rho, the density of a liquid. If you are using it for a rocket, for a liquid propulsion, then the equation will be different. If you are using a hose pipe to demonstrate to a student how the water velocity must be increased at the end, you decrease the area of cross section of the hose pipe. whether you will use A1 V1 equal to A1 A2 V2 equal to A3 V2 as continuity equation, you must decide for which characteristics of your students. For example, in IIT, their system, that characteristics may be different. In a remote village, some engineering college is doing, they may be using a continuity equation in the form of a hose pipe as a real world problem. So it depends upon how you are treating your core subject with contemporary core logics, how you are taking the concept to the student is what the CDIO comes into picture. The CDIO rationale to build all these things and the evidence in the form of CO. The CO, finally, whether the student has attained is the CDIO's evidence. And now you can say for a particular CO, you can say communication has been attained, engineer and society has been attained, and you can mark and map with our PO a particular communication skill has been attained, ethics has been attained, only with the evidence of like and so. Otherwise, simply putting a mark like communication skill, it is not, you cannot treat them in isolation. We have a communication department, they teach them English, and we are putting a tick mark. Then why are you putting a tick mark in a particular CO of a unit outcome in network technology? You give a proof. It is articulating socio-culture. If that is going to be the yellow, student yellow, then you can say in a particular cognitive structure, we have imbibed this thing and the student has learned. And this is a proof that we have attained the ethics in a particular CO. This is how it should be done. Okay. Now let us take, you are designing knowledge objects instead of topics. You are not going to cover the topics. You are going to uncover a concept in the form of knowledge object. The knowledge object inside has got a knowledge structure. The knowledge structure is logically arranged instructional content for the fundamental core in your own lead discipline, contemporary core from strategically aligned industry, core basis may be mathematics, maybe binary mathematics and computer science. Then you bring out an ASCII standards, the second letter of ASCII standing for standards, or in mechanical engineering, thermodynamics, and your fundamental core. Then you bring a contemporary core like a numerical, a pneumatic hammer, for example, pneumatic hammer, for example, I'm telling. In mechanical engineering could be the contemporary core, and the fundamental core could be something like the use of continuity equation and things like that. Okay. So knowledge structure, some may not have contemporary, some may have only fundamental, some may have core basis. All this knowledge structure will bring out in the form of knowledge objects or the authentic task, which is rationale in the CDIO. Then you bring the competency. The competency is a knowledge object with the required skill component and attitude imbibed in your core content. And that is why the core content could be in the form of design, could be in the form of problem analysis or complex problem solving, etc., etc. So the competency is one after another in the form of different knowledge objects, hundreds or maybe 200, 300 in a particular course. Then the student is slowly developing in his competencies. Okay, with that, I will show you some example. 5 minutes we have. Quickly, I'll go through. You take abilities from serialistic to holistic, intrapersonal ability like communication, critical thinking, lifelong, etc. From self to society, responsibility, engineering society, etc., etc. From contemporary to contemporary, from fundamental disciplinary knowledge in the form of design, detailing, basic science, or complex problem solving, etc. You are taking the students slowly imbibing through learning outcomes, LOs. Then core and abilities joined together. Then core and responsibilities joined together. Then responsibility and abilities joined together. You can assess him through third component or continuous formative assessment. And finally, the transformational education is taking place. Let us see an example. Skills and abilities. Example of LO is articulating socioculture. Then attitudes and skills are combined together, imbibed. Then engineering core and abilities are imbibed, articulating content. engineering core and responsibilities are imbibed. It's called goal setting. Is an example. There are 400, 500 learning outcomes are available. You cannot change them. They have designed by a particular pedagogies. So you cannot do so. And finally, in the middle, maintaining logic of argument, all imbibed. Okay, let us go to the final example. Some institute has got A, another institute B. The program is computer science and engineering. Vision statement. To be a center of excellence academic has come. In effective integration of ICT for product development, society has come in a global perspective. Effective integration of ICT is a skill by the student for product development. Okay, this is a skill. This is academic. This is social. Institute B, same CSC program. The key learning areas are same. To be a renowned program, academic has come for satisfying technology needs of the rural and underprivileged. Society has come in pan-Indian environment. Satisfying technology needs, the student is going to do it. Civic has come, arguably. Mission statement. There could be different missions. I'm giving an example. For the Institute A, to develop students focusing on their careers in global markets. Global perspective is aligned with that. Here, Institute B, to provide comprehensive ICT experience to students for uplifting rural society. So the civic and society has come spelled out in the mission aligned with this vision. Institute A, PEO statement, one of the statements, maybe 4 or 5 statements, I'm giving sample. Graduates will be prepared with skills in the ever-changing ICT environment. So he is putting the future also in ICT, in computer science, and he is aligned with this thing, global market and the global perspective in the vision it is marked. Here, in rural uplift, Indian, pan-Indian condition, graduates will be prepared with ethical work culture for taking ICT to rural India, maybe for the development of agriculture development in a remote village in, let us say, Gujarat, or what is that, dairy products. You are taking an ICT for the development and communication of the dairy products to rural India. So you're putting the ethical work culture as societal responsibility has come. Civic sense for the graduates also has been taken. Now we will put it in blue color. A specific PO has been taken as a graduate attribute from Washington Accord. I have not changed it. It is italics. I create blah, 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 IPC tool. This comes under graduate attribute, investigation of complex problem in the core. Here, design system that blah, 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 blah. This is number 3 of the PO standard. Design and development is the graduate attribute. Just come. Now let us go to the next one. PO statement. You can put it as PSO also here. Our NBA agrees that. A, ability to use techniques, skills, and modern software tools, analyzing, see all the underline for CSC program by this institute, satisfying this PO. Now, this institute, ability to design, implement, blah, 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 societal, political, ethical, health for the rural Indian requirements. This is in line with these standards, which is aligned with this. Now I'm taking a key learning area. This is the most difficult part. How to do it? That is what CDIO comes. Differentiating fibers from multi-threading in operating system. I used to tell when I go for the I go for the net examiner for correcting the national eligibility test for computer science. I go to Pune and then we do that. Nowadays I'm not going. I used to tell, if you learn Unix operating system, 50% comes there in net exam for the teacher. Net, you may be knowing about the national eligibility test in computer science. And now I don't know how they have done it. This will say most of the time this will come. Fibers from multi-threading. It involves the key learning area and operating system. Now, how the CO statement by this institute A has given. Ability in performing virtuosity. Performing virtuosity comes in the authentic learning clause, which is a learning outcome in the lower level. hard skill in modern tool usage. In a particular cognitive structure, if you using metacognition, it assures that the students will attain the performing virtuosity, and you can also assess. In differentiating fibers of Microsoft, you see, contemporary core is coming. From multi-threading of Linux, contemporary core is coming. For deciding critical situation globally. Now here, instead B, ability in articulating socioculture middle level, which is comes under engineer and society and communication, both put together. Articulation, communication, socioculture, engineer and society, how it is assigned in differentiating fibers for proprietary operating system and open source. In a rural development, I would not go for proprietary, we will become a slave. So let us go for open source operating system. A computer scientist designing for a dairy product from village to village. This computer program is going to be applied for rural uplift. So this is matching with this. This is matching with this. Aligned. Similarly, this is gone separately. But the key learning areas remain same. And how they have been treated, we have seen with this example. Okay, some of you are already doing. You may be saying, sir, I'm already doing that. But may not be under a scientific framework like the CDIO. Unless and otherwise you do it, it cannot be scientifically proved. You may be doing, you may be correct, but not the entire institute may not be doing. And that is what I wanted to tell. Okay, my main program consists of all how to design this, all these things, and using best practices, what is cognitive structure, authentic task, etc. Anyway, this is what I wanted to give you as an overview in this one, which consists upon the characteristics as the Madam Gladys was mentioning about you when I designed. Unfortunately, I could not come because of pre-assignment. Some other occasion, we will meet and let us try to do it. With this, I will come to the end of that one. We will have an open discussion.
Thank you so much, sir, for your
excellent
session, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. This is what I...
Yes. As a program coordinator, I am expecting oral feedback for this session from participants. Interested participants, please unmute yourself and tell your feedback.
Yes, please. You can give your any questions, please.
You can ask a question also. In the meantime, you can express your feedback. Participants, sir, please check chat box, sir.
Yeah.
They have posted many messages related about the session.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think unfortunately this is in online mode. We cannot completely understand. In fact, this is against OBE's exploratory learning.
Yes.
Only rote information they can get.
Yes.
A student in the online mode, in my opinion, can get rote information or simple procedural knowledge dimension, like simple procedure, step 1, step 2. And not
anybody from participant side?
Yes. Anybody, please?
Any queries?
Any questions, please?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Sir. Actually, I'm from arts, I'm in commerce. But the information, whatever you have given is so rich, and it gives a deep insight of what is OBE. And I was really wondering so much of the concept has to be considered while framing or adapting the OBE system. Thank you so much, sir. And you have given
thank you very much. And where from you are teaching?
Sorry? Recently, and we came to know about POs and COs very recently, sir. And we are just in the, correcting stage of everything we need to get corrected with all these information. And this will be a very useful session for us, sir. So we have learned so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. You are from which institute?
Sri Sharda College from Salem, sir.
Okay. Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very good. Okay.
Any other participants? Thank you, ma'am, for your
thank you.
questions. Thank you. Any other participants?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
We
very
can
nice. I would like to
discuss.
once
Yeah.
again thank Dr. Gladys Pushparathi, who has taken a very personal initiative in arranging this program. But for her, this wouldn't have come at all. So I am very grateful to her for giving me an opportunity. And on some other occasion, we will have even live session with face-to-face, which I think
Yes, sir. I am also expecting the same, sir. If the
after this period, Corona period.
surely we will meet, sir. Surely
Yeah,
we will meet.
it is actually a workshop-based program.
Yes,
Then
yes.
only the students, the teachers will have a real feeling of developing.
When
knowledge
I
of
shared the
resource.
topics to the resource persons, around 4 resource persons called me and asked about the topic, sir.
Okay.
It is look like in workshop. Have you framed like that? They asked.
Correct. It's a workshop.
Yes, sir.
We can't do it in Corona time. This
Yes.
COVID-19, no. Unfortunately, this is we have to be in the
Yes,
online.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
At
sir.
least you have got some idea about OBE and CDA. What's enough?
Yes, yes.
Get an idea about it.
Yes, sir.
This is different from the traditional method. That's all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And they should be prepared for that.
Yes.
Time has come.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Once
Thank
again.
you so much.
we'll
Thank
make
you
some-
so much, sir. Thank you for the participants. Please join sharply 2 o'clock for next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.